Okay, so as you can see here, we've got the crossbow, got my little hammer, and a little nail that I just filed the tip off of, so it's flat. And then now I'm going to use that to remove these pins, actually, okay. But obviously, yeah, it's quite awkward with the bow on. So what I'm going to do first of all is just remove the bow. So there's my cotton string. Here's my little boxer shorts, piece of boxer shorts, and there's my bow. Okay, so nice little bow there. Put that on the side there, and I've got my stirrup still on there. I can take that off with a simple screwdriver. So. And there you go, here's the stirrup, so you can put that on the side there. I've got my screws here, put them there. Now I've simply got the stock with the trigger block still in there. So now to take this out, as I said, simply take the little nail that where I flattened the tip, and just have to position it in such a way that I can simply knock out these pins, as you can see. So there's the first pin, okay, then pin 2, and there you go. So now I can simply take this out. There you go, you've got rolling nut and your trigger. So now just to show you, I'll reconstruct it on the outside just to show you how it works. So we've got 3 pins here, right? We've got a cavity there with a bit of an extra cavity there, which is where the trigger actually will go down into, so that cavity is for that. And here you can see I quite, in a very ugly way, made this gap way too big. So actually it's better if it's narrow, so that the trigger doesn't move around too much, doesn't have too much space to play around, which is, yeah, the mistake I made in the beginning. But I put in some pieces of ash, which now makes, they make it more narrow here, but also make, act as some reinforcement, because this is all oak, and although oak is strong, if it's going to be this thin or this thin, with the force of a strong bow, it's not going to work well. It might give in there, but with ash it should be fine. So this is the rolling nut, the trigger nut. I basically just took some oak dowel and I cut a piece off, as you can see, cut a notch in here basically, file this down with a round file, and then use a round file here as well to make the 2 fingers and make this little space where the end of the bolt can fit into. So there you go, just drill the hole in the middle there for the axle, and the end here with a small chisel I just chiseled this part out, which is where the sear sits, the sear plate. Hopefully it can focus there for you. Let's see, there we go. And that, for the metal part of the sear, I just used like a thumbnail, which had a metallic head, just hammered it down with a small hammer, put it in there, glued it in, and there you go, that's it. So let me put it on here with the pin. You can see that's how the nut will sit. It'll obviously sit on the inside here usually, but I'm just gonna show you how it works. So there you go, that's the rolling nut. Then with another nut I'm gonna have the trigger. So you can see I've bent the trigger. This is its face that's going to sit or engage the sear there. I just had to hammer this flat and then drill a hole there to for the axle to pass through, and then just shaped it to make it easier to pull up and to make it give it the correct shape. So just put this pin in here, and then the trigger will sit in there. So what will happen is it'll engage the trigger nut as such. And then just once you pull the trigger up, it'll lift off and the trigger nut can roll. There is a third nut though, third pin though, because if this nut, if the trigger has too much space, as you can see, it'll just fall down. Its gravity, its weight will just pull it down all the way. So you need an extra pin in there, which will stop the trigger from going too far down. And there you go. Simple, easy as pie. So what you do usually is I will put the trigger nut in this position, pull the string back. The string, as you can see, firstly the trigger and its weight pulls it up onto the trigger nut. But when the string comes down, pulls it there, it'll pull, and then eventually the trigger will go into the gap there and engage the sear, and then hold the trigger nut in place until you pull the trigger up and it releases. And there you go, that's how it works. So that's a deconstruction of the crossbow. Hope you liked it, and please subscribe and like.